Have you ever stood on a windswept cliff, the ocean roaring below, its salty spray kissing your face, and felt a quiet so vast it seemed to hold the world's secrets? That's what peace feels like, a stillness that anchors you, even when life howls like a storm. But for most of us, that stillness is a distant dream. Meet Sophie, a 32-year-old graphic designer navigating the chaos of a city that never sleeps. Her apartment is a cozy nook filled with sketchbooks and half-drunk coffee mugs, but her mind is a battlefield. Thoughts clash like cymbals, doubts about her latest project, regrets over a faded romance, an emptiness that lingers like the hum of a distant train. Each morning, Sophie wakes to a knot in her chest, as if her heart is bracing for a fight she didn't choose. Sophie's struggle isn't hers alone. Many of us live in a tug-of-war with our minds, caught in a cycle of runaway thoughts and emotions that strike like lightning. We mask it with smiles, pretending all is well, but inside, it's a different story. Sophie used to believe this was just life. Endless worry, fleeting joys, a void that followed her like a shadow. She thought peace was a rare treasure, reserved for sages on mountaintops or those with perfect lives. But that's a myth we've all been fed. Peace isn't a luxury for the enlightened. It's not a prize you win when your to-do list is empty or your bank account is full. It's a skill, a way of seeing the world, and it's closer than you think, if you're brave enough to reach for it. Let's step back to a moment that shook Sophie awake. At 30, she was balancing a high-pressure job and a rocky relationship with her younger brother, Leo, who lived halfway across the country. One chilly evening, after a grueling day of client revisions, Sophie sat on her balcony, the city's neon lights flickering below like a restless dream. The air carried the faint scent of rain and street food, and the distant hum of traffic mirrored her churning thoughts. She'd just received a blunt text from Leo, dismissing a heartfelt message she'd sent about their late father's birthday. The words cut deep, and her mind spiraled. Why does he push me away? Am I not enough for him? Tears stung her eyes, and that familiar emptiness crept in, cold as the night air. But then, a small miracle happened. A street vendor below began playing a violin, its notes rising like sparks in the dark. Sophie paused. She listened, and in that moment, she realized the pain wasn't just about Leo. It was about years of carrying her family's grief, of believing she had to fix every fracture alone. That night, Sophie began to question the story she'd accepted, that her inner chaos was normal, inevitable. She wondered if peace wasn't about silencing the noise, but learning to hear it differently. It wasn't an instant fix, but it was a spark. It's the spark I want to share with you now. Peace isn't a perfect life. It's how you navigate the mess, the missed deadlines, the strained conversations, the moments when you feel like you're sinking. Because here's the secret. Reality isn't what happens to you, it's what you make of it. Picture two strangers on a bustling train platform, the air thick with the tang of diesel and the screech of brakes. One, a woman named Clara, a 45-year-old professor, feels her heart race as the train is delayed. Her mind churns. I'll miss my lecture. The dean will notice. Why does this always happen? Sweat beads on her forehead, her fingers clutching her bag as she imagines the day unraveling. Beside her stands Milo, a 28-year-old paramedic. He's also late for his shift, but he's tapping his foot to a song in his head, his eyes tracing the mosaic tiles on the platform wall. To Milo, the delay is a chance to breathe, to notice the rhythm of the city's pulse. Same moment, different worlds. Why? Because your mind is a lens, and that lens shapes everything. Clara's lens was forged over decades. Growing up, she watched her mother, a woman with a temper like a summer squall, react to setbacks with frustration. Clara absorbed that reflex, believing stress was the only way to meet life's challenges. By 45, her mind was a web of unconscious habits: fear of failure, a need to prove herself, a habit of expecting the worst. Milo's lens was different. At 26, he'd faced a near-fatal car accident that left him in a hospital bed, the sterile smell of antiseptic and the beep of monitors his only companions. In that stillness, he vowed to savor life's small moments, to see obstacles as fleeting. That vow became his lens, turning delays into pauses, setbacks into chances to adapt. The psychologist Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Clara and Milo prove this. Your reactions aren't just yours, they're echoes of your past, of lessons you absorbed before you knew you were learning. Think of Sophie again. Her clashes with Leo weren't just about a text or a missed call. They were rooted in a childhood where Sophie, the eldest, felt responsible for holding her family together after their father's death. That burden shaped her lens, making every rejection feel like a personal failing. But here's the good news. You can reshape your lens. You're not doomed to see the world the same way forever. Let's meet Zara, a 19-year-old university student who learned this the hard way. Zara grew up in a chaotic home. Her parents' arguments a constant hum, like static on a radio. By 17, she was quick to lash out, snapping at friends over small slights. One afternoon, during a heated debate in a lecture hall, the air heavy with the scent of old books and coffee, Zara caught herself mid-rant. The room fell silent, her classmates' eyes wide. In that pause, she saw her mother's anger in herself. It rattled her. She started a habit of writing down her triggers, a practice suggested by a mentor. In her dorm, surrounded by fairy lights and the faint hum of her laptop, she traced her outbursts to a deeper wound, feeling invisible in a home where no one listened. By 19, Zara wasn't fixed, but she was freer. She'd learned to pause, to question her reactions, to choose her response. That's the power of awareness. It's not about erasing your past, but seeing it as a story, not a cage. Imagine your mind as a river, its waters swirling with thoughts, some bright, some murky, some sharp with regret. Most of us spend our lives trying to dam that river, to stop the thoughts we fear. But the harder you fight, the more you tire. Sophie learned this at 31. During a mindfulness class she attended reluctantly, persuaded by a friend who swore it would ease her stress. The room smelled of sandalwood, and the teacher, a man with a voice like a gentle tide, asked everyone to sit still and notice their thoughts without judgment. Sophie was skeptical. Her mind was a tempest. How could noticing help? But as she sat, the soft creak of the wooden floor grounding her, she tried. A thought surfaced. I'm failing at my job. Instead of wrestling it, she let it drift. Another, Leo will never forgive me. She watched it too, like a cloud passing in the sky. For the first time, she felt a space between herself and her thoughts, a sliver of freedom. That space is where peace begins. You are not your thoughts. You're not the voice whispering, "You're not enough," or "You'll never fix this." You're the one who listens, the watcher on the riverbank. But we forget this. We merge with every thought, letting it pull us under. The Stoics understood this truth. They taught that it's not what happens, but how you respond. When Sophie started observing her thoughts instead of battling them, she saw patterns. How her mind replayed old wounds, her father's absence, Leo's distance. By watching without clinging, she realized those thoughts were stories, not facts. They began to lose their hold. Here's another story to bring this home. Meet Oliver, a 50-year-old bookstore owner who spent years grappling with panic attacks. Oliver's days were filled with the rustle of pages and the aroma of fresh ink, but his mind was a storm. At 48, he'd wake at dawn, heart pounding, convinced he'd missed a delivery or forgotten a bill. His therapist suggested a practice. When panic struck, Oliver would sit with it. He'd feel the racing pulse, the tightness in his throat, and name it, "This is panic." He'd breathe, letting it exist without trying to banish it. Over months, in his quiet shop, the clink of coins in the register a steady rhythm, Oliver noticed a shift. The panic didn't vanish, but it stopped ruling him. He could shelve books, chat with customers, even sleep soundly, all while the panic hummed faintly. By accepting it, he'd stripped its power. This isn't about ignoring emotions or pretending all is well. It's about letting them be without letting them define you. When anger flares, feel it. The heat in your cheeks, the clench of your fists. When grief comes, notice it. The ache in your chest, the sting in your eyes. Don't push it away or hold it tight. Just watch. The moment you do, you're no longer the river. You're the shore. Sophie's breakthrough came at 32, during a trip to a windswept lake. She stood on a dock, the air sharp with pine, and the water lapping softly against weathered wood. She'd come to honor her father, scattering his ashes, as she'd promised years ago. As she let the ashes slip through her fingers, watching them ripple across the lake, she realized she was holding on to more than his memory. She was clinging to guilt, for not being there in his final days, for not healing her family's wounds. That day, Sophie chose to let go. Not of her love for her father, but of the need to control the past. Letting go is the key to unshakable peace, but it's not what you think. It's not just about forgiving old hurts or moving on from pain. It's about releasing the need to control everything, outcomes, opinions, even your own emotions. Most of us are like Clara, the professor on the train platform, gripping life so tightly our hands ache. We want people to approve of us, plans to go smoothly, the future to unfold as we've scripted. But life doesn't bend to our will. The more you resist what is, the more you suffer. Consider Lila, a 38-year-old baker who learned this in her bustling bakery. Lila's shop was her heart, its warm glow and scent of rising dough a testament to her passion. But at 36, a supplier's mistake left her without flour during a holiday rush. Lila obsessed over the loss, replaying it as she kneaded dough, the sting sharper than the burn of an oven. She tried to control the fallout, new suppliers, rushed orders, but the stress consumed her. One quiet night, after closing, she sat in the empty shop, the hum of the fridge her only company. She realized she couldn't control the supplier, the customers, or the chaos, but she could control her response. She let go of the need for perfection, focusing instead on baking with joy. The shop didn't fail, it flourished, not because the world obeyed Lila, but because she stopped fighting it. We're taught to cling to success, to relationships, to the idea of who we're supposed to be. But attachment is a tether. When you let go, you don't lose. You gain freedom. Sophie learned this with Leo. Instead of chasing his approval, she started writing letters, not to send, but to release her expectations. In her apartment, surrounded by the glow of candles and the faint scent of jasmine, she wrote about their childhood, the creak of their father's rocking chair, Leo's infectious laugh. By letting go, Sophie found peace, not in Leo's response, but in her own heart. Peace isn't what you feel when life is calm. It's what you hold on to when the world shakes. Sophie faced her storm at 33, when her company downsized and she lost her job. The news came on a rainy morning, the office heavy with the smell of damp coats and toner. Her stomach sank as her manager, a woman with tired eyes, explained the cuts. Sophie walked home through the city, the patter of rain and chatter of umbrellas a blur. The old emptiness whispered, "You're worthless." But this time, she didn't crumble. She'd learned to see pain differently, not as a foe, but as a guide. Resilience isn't about being untouchable or shrugging off pain. It's about turning suffering into growth. Look at Milo, the paramedic from the train platform. His accident at 26 wasn't just a scare, it was a crucible. In the hospital, surrounded by the hum of ventilators and the soft tread of nurses, he wrote about his fears, his hopes, his gratitude for each sunrise. That habit carried him through later storms, grueling shifts, a falling out with a friend, a flood that damaged his home at 27. Milo didn't dodge pain. He used it asking, "What can this teach me?" Each challenge strengthened him, not because he was invincible, but because he chose to evolve. Nature mirrors this truth. A wildfire ravages a forest, but it clears space for new shoots, the earth richer for it. A pearl forms from an oyster's irritation. You're no different. Pain is inevitable. Loss, rejection, failure. But suffering is a choice. When Sophie lost her job, she could have spiraled, blaming herself or the world. Instead, she asked, "How can I grow?" She started freelancing, rediscovering her love for illustration. The uncertainty was daunting, but it pushed her to bloom. By 33, she wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. Not because life was kinder, but because she'd reshaped her relationship with pain. Here's another example. Meet Hassan, a 60-year-old retired carpenter who faced his storm at 58. After a stroke, he was told to rest. The news landed hard in his workshop, the scent of sawdust and varnish a reminder of his life's work. Hassan had always defined himself by his craft, his hands steady as they shaped wood. Now, he felt fragile, but instead of resisting, he started gardening, the crunch of soil under his boots a new rhythm. He listened to audiobooks about resilience, joined a local seniors group, and began teaching woodworking to teens. His stroke didn't break him, it remade him, turning a man of tools into a man of community. The biggest barrier to resilience is attachment to identity. We cling to who we think we are, our roles, our stories, our scars. Sophie thought she was the dutiful sister, Clara, the stressed professor, Hassan, the master carpenter. But those labels are traps. True peace comes when you release the old self, embracing who you can become. It's daunting, like stepping into a dark forest, but it's also liberation. When you stop fearing pain, when you see every challenge as a chance to grow, you become unstoppable. Now, let's explore a final truth. Peace isn't just about letting go or growing through pain. It's about trusting yourself, trusting life, even when the way forward is unclear. Picture a lantern glowing in a snowy night, its light steady despite the wind. That's what trust feels like, an inner flame that guides you, no matter the dark. Sophie discovered this at 34, during a solo trek in the hills. The path was rugged, the air sharp with eucalyptus and damp earth. Halfway up, a thick mist rolled in, shrouding the trail. Her pulse quickened, her phone was useless, and the path vanished. Panic whispered, "You're lost. You'll never make it." But then she remembered her journey, how she'd faced layoffs, family rifts, her own fears, and emerged stronger. She took a deep breath, the mist cool in her lungs, and chose to trust. Step by step, she reached the peak, where the fog lifted, revealing a valley aglow with dawn. Trust is the cornerstone of peace, but it's the toughest to build. We're taught to crave control, plan every detail, predict every outcome, eliminate every risk. But control is a mirage. Life is a wild, untamed river, and no blueprint can tame it. Sophie learned this, but so did Theo, a 42-year-old journalist who chased certainty for years. Theo's life was a checklist: tight deadlines, a sleek apartment, a partnership he thought was forever. At 40, his partner left, citing years of emotional drift. The news hit like a thunderclap, the scent of his morning tea turning sour. Theo had planned every story, every byline, but not this. He spent months dissecting the breakup, trying to solve it, but one evening, in his silent apartment, the tick of a clock, his only companion, he realized he couldn't control his partner's choice, just as Sophie couldn't control the mist. He could only trust himself to move on. Theo started small. He took up pottery, a hobby he'd loved as a teen, but dropped for serious work. The feel of clay and the hum of the wheel rekindled a spark. He joined a local studio, meeting people who saw him not as a failed partner, but as a man with stories to shape. Through pottery, Theo learned to trust the process, clay warping in ways he couldn't predict, flaws becoming art. That trust spread to his life. He stopped needing every moment to be certain, finding peace in the unknown. Trust isn't blind optimism. It's not about ignoring reality or expecting miracles. It's about believing in your strength to face whatever comes. Think of Milo, who trusted himself to find joy in a train delay, or Hassan, who trusted his body to heal and his heart to connect. Trust is a skill, honed through small acts, trying a new path, staying calm when plans falter, forgiving yourself for a misstep. It's what lets you stand in the storm, not because you control the rain, but because you know you can endure it. Here's a final story to tie it together. Meet Amara, a 25-year-old aspiring poet who faced her moment of trust at 23. Amara had dreamed of sharing her words since she was a girl, her notebook filled with verses inspired by her grandmother's garden, its scent of roses and soil. But fear of judgment silenced her. At 23, she got a chance to read at a local open mic, the air warm with the smell of coffee and candle wax. As she stepped to the mic, her throat tightened, the crowd's faces blurring into a wall of doubt. She nearly fled, but then she thought of her grandmother, who died when she was 16, her voice echoing, "Your words are enough." Amara closed her eyes, felt the weight of her notebook, and read. The first line trembled, but by the end, the room was alive with applause. Amara's trust in herself didn't erase her fear. It carried her through it. Trust is the bridge to peace. It's what lets you let go, grow through pain, and flow with life's uncertainties. It's the courage to believe that, no matter what happens, you'll find a way to stand tall. So as you move forward, ask yourself, what would it feel like to trust myself just a little more? The answer might just light your path. So, here we are, at the end of this journey, but it's really a beginning. Peace isn't a destination, it's a choice you make every day, with every thought, every breath. Sophie, Clara, Milo, Zara, Oliver, Lila, Hassan, Theo, and Amara. They're not so different from you. They faced their storms, their doubts, their rivers of thoughts, and found peace not by mastering life, but by mastering how they moved through it. You can, too. Here's my challenge. Choose peace. Not tomorrow, not when life is perfect, but now. The next time a thought spirals, a fear grips you, or a plan crumbles, pause, breathe. Ask, what can I learn? How can I trust myself here? Write it down, say it aloud, make it real. If this story stirred something in you, leave a comment with the words, I choose peace. It's not just a phrase, it's a vow to yourself. And if you want to keep building this mindset, subscribe. This isn't about one story. It's about a shift, a way of living that's freer, braver, truer. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, choose wisely.